This is the Online Learning Podcast. Welcome to episode 10. Are you making the most of the person you can be? Online learning is your gateway to expanding your horizons in a direction you may not even have thought of. Hello, I'm John Colley. Here on the Online Learning Podcast, we challenge you to find the online learning courses to take you to your next level. Expert in something? Why not create your own course and monetize that expertise? Come on, open this door with me and step inside the Online Learning Podcast. Hello, I'm John Colley. Welcome to this episode of the Online Learning Podcast. Now, I've got a really interesting one and a slightly different show for you today because I've got a conversation with Ian Cleary. And Ian is a fantastic expert on e-marketing and particularly on social media tools. And therefore, we're going to have a session where he's going to give you some fantastic tips which will help you with your marketing. But before we do that, I would just like to thank Rob Cobban, who I interviewed in one of the earlier episodes, for his great 5-star review on iTunes, which is really going to help the podcast. I quote, he says, "John Colley gives us an insight to the online learning world. It's a world that is huge and growing, and there isn't enough information about it on the web in general and specifically on iTunes. Successful individuals in this new economy will be the ones who can adapt to new technologies the quickest. One of the main ways they will be doing this is through online learning, and one of the main industries that will benefit from this is online teaching. John gives us information about both of these worlds through his podcast, the online teaching world as well as the online learning world. I would thoroughly recommend you give this a listen. I do have to add a disclaimer that I am one of his interviewees, but I have no hesitation in recommending this podcast through having listened to the first 4 episodes. Knowing John's expertise in this area, as well as his ability to conduct a great interview, means that this is all the hallmarks of a successful podcast series." Well, Rob, I guess the cheque must be in the post. No, it isn't actually, but bad luck. But I do appreciate Rob's very kind comments, and I really appreciate him taking the time to leave me the review and the comment on iTunes. And if you're enjoying the podcast, I would really appreciate you doing that, whichever country you're in. And if you listen to the outro, I've got a special offer for you if you do that. But a rating, whatever you think is appropriate, it would be much appreciated, and a comment, obviously, as well. And if you leave a rating, I may well be reading yours out in a future episode of the Online Learning Podcast. But let's crack on now, and let's move on to this week's marketing tip of the week. And now, the Online Learning Podcast's marketing tip of the week. In this week's marketing tip, I want to talk to you about LinkedIn, which is a fantastically powerful platform. And particularly, I want to talk to you about LinkedIn groups. Now, I am a member of I think it's 48 groups on LinkedIn, which is too short of the maximum of 50. And the number of members in those LinkedIn groups is nearly 4.5 million. So that's a potential audience which, as long as the message is relevant, is an audience which would really benefit from learning from your course and from what you have to say in your course. The trick is to get a relevant message to them without it looking like spam. And the best way to do that is to contribute conversationally in the courses, and when and where appropriate, and only when appropriate, to suggest that they may benefit from looking at your course and leaving a link to it. This has to be done with a degree of carefulness and delicacy, because otherwise you will get kicked out of your LinkedIn course. But nonetheless, it is potentially such a large audience, you really can't afford to ignore it. So find ways to share your Udemy courses, or whichever platform you're on, your courses, with your LinkedIn groups by commenting and leaving appropriate comments when you can. I hope you find that useful. If you've got a great suggestion, I would love to hear from you for your marketing tip. You can email me, john@jbdcolley.com, and if I use your tip, of course, I will give you full credit for it. Now we come to this week's interview, and I'm very excited to be able to bring you a conversation with Ian Cleary, who is the founder of RazorSocial.com. He's an online marketing expert, and this week we're going to focus on marketing, and he's going to give you some fantastic tools that you can use to improve the marketing of your online course. So let's not hesitate any further, and let's get straight into the interview. And now it's time for this week's Course Creator Interview. In today's online learning podcast, I've got a slightly different episode for you because instead of interviewing a course creator, I've got a master magician in the social media tools space. Now, I've been following Ian emails for a little while because I've been on his list. I've also heard him interviewed on much more illustrious podcasts than this humble attempt at a podcast. And really wanted to get him on because he is so good at coming up with brilliant tools to help people in social media. And I'm hoping we can come up with a few things today which will hopefully help people, particularly course creators, with their marketing and their promotion of their courses. So, Ian, welcome to the Online Learning Podcast. Thank you very much for your time today.
Well, thank you very much for having me, John. Delighted to be a guest on your podcast. I was delighted when you asked me.
Well, I'm very, very honoured, humbled. If I had a forelock, I'd probably be tugging it, but it disappeared a year or two ago. Could you just start off by explaining to everybody listening what is it you actually do, and a little bit about your background, just so they can get to know you a bit?
Sure, no problem. Well, I'm based in Ireland. My background is mainly around technology, so working in software companies. I drifted into social media. We ran a company, we still do, where we have a training company where we run a lot of training courses, online and offline training courses. But with my knowledge in technology and the social media side, I want to do something more international and use that experience from the technology side. So we set up a blog, RazorSocial.com, and the goal was really to be the world-leading site in relation to social media tools and technology. So we invested a lot of time in the US, building up the relationships in the US, and things have gone very well for us. We had a really good niche, and it's we just love what we're doing, and it's a really interesting journey we're on.
Yeah, you definitely provide the most entertaining weekly email in my inbox, that's for sure.
I tell you, it's funny. I got somebody unsubscribed saying I no longer need this information because I've moved jobs, but I found your content really good and very entertaining.
There's a mixed message there in some respects, yeah. But no, you do provide some great tools and great recommendations, but it's also got a really enjoyable sort of light-hearted streak through it. And I'm not going to say more than that, because if anybody wants to know what I'm talking about, jolly well go and sign up for yourself, and we'll tell you how to do that at the end. So how did you come to focus down on the tool space? Because it is a great niche. And you're the first person I've really come across doing it, which is why I was so keen to connect with you. So how did that all come about?
Well, I listed out about 100 influencers in the social media industry, mainly based in the US because that's where it's happening.
Yeah.
And I looked at all their content, so I analysed all their content to see what they were writing about, and I realised that the tools-focused content done best in terms of the amount of shares and retweets and links to content. And they would do the tools content every so often, but nobody focused on it. Now, one of the big reasons was, if you looked at all them influencers, none of them had a technology background. They're marketing, journalists, sort of a mixed background. So I had a very strong, 15 to 16 years in technology. So I'm very much a techie in the marketing world. So that niche was definitely available, and since we've taken up that, it's been obvious that there was a big gap there because things have moved very quickly for us.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right, and it's amazing how, with hindsight, you can recognise the gap because you filled it so effectively. Sorry.
And John, I suppose we're talking about course creators here. It's an important area to consider. Is to look at. There's no point in producing courses that everybody else is producing. So identifying that niche will help you stand out. And the market, the global market is big. So there's plenty of people globally to buy courses, but picking your niche wisely is really important.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, that was one of the reasons when I did my first course, I actually spent quite a lot of time analysing the platform that I chose to put it on, which is the Udemy platform, which everybody who listens to this this podcast will know is the main platform I talk about, although we're by no means exclusively in any way attached to Udemy. And I found it very interesting to analyse the categories and then analyse the subcategories to really delve into it more deeply. And I guess that's the same in your space.
Yeah, I suppose the temptation is to jump in on something like Udemy and just create courses immediately. But like what you did is doing a bit of investigation to really figure out where's the category or subcategory that you can own, and that makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Which is also why I've started the online learning podcast, because I couldn't find anybody else doing it, and I'm passionate about online learning, so that's worked really well. I'd like to talk to you, though, and pick your brains on the subject of tools. I mean, the thing I find most challenging is how I can get the message out about my courses and bring people either initially to my site or directly, indeed, to my courses. And there's a lot of stuff which Udemy produces, and they try and help you, but nobody really talks about tools. And I thought this would be an excellent opportunity to pick your brains to perhaps, I like doing things in sixes, so maybe we can find 6 tools that you'd recommend to particularly course creators, although anybody obviously operating in social media will find this interesting, to help market to courses which people have created.
Okay, yeah, no problem at all.
Where do you want to start?
I'll start with Hootsuite as the first tool for managing Twitter, because it's quite a well-known tool, but it's really useful, and there's a very good free version, so you get a lot of functionality. Mm-hmm. And on Twitter, if you're using Twitter itself, it's a bit of a mess because you've just too much content coming in, too many tweets. What you can do with Hootsuite is start filtering things out in columns. Now, when I talked about building relationships with the influencers, I identify the influencers, I create a Twitter list of all these people, and then I keep them in a separate column on Hootsuite so I can track them. So if you're selling courses, you're thinking about, well, individual people, but what about people that are really influential in the area you're selling courses in? If you start building relationships with them, they may be able to use their followings and promote your courses for you if they're really good courses. So really building that list and keeping them in a separate column, so then you can actually start tracking conversation, answering them, sharing their content, answering their questions when they have it, and that will help build a relationship with them. So when you do have the course, hopefully they're prepared to help you as well promote your content.
And the strategy there is definitely listen and contribute, not weigh in with a, hey, do you want to sell my course, isn't it?
Absolutely. Now, for the first 9 months to a year, my goal was always to see how can I help the influencers. Mm-hmm. I never, ever looked for anything off the influencers because everybody looks for something.
Yeah.
Hello, how are you doing, John? Can you promote my course?
Yeah.
You get that message a lot, so you just can't do it. Whereas somebody comes to you and says, hello, John, how can I promote your course?
Yes.
You start thinking, oh, my God, this guy's going to help me promote it. So, of course, when I have a course out and I say, John, just thought I'd let you know about my course, the natural thing as a normal human being is going, well, you helped me, I want to help you back.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's really important. So really think about who are the influential people and how can I help them? And that's going to really pay dividends when you have your course and you're ready to sell it. But I'd say start now. If you haven't built your course yet, or if you haven't defined your niche yet, now's the time to start thinking about the niche and then start building the relationships with the influencers.
Yeah, very interesting. No, really good advice. So that's Hootsuite, and I know that's got a sort of free and a paid version. I think you can manage up to 5 accounts on Hootsuite, can't you, for free?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's for typically you'll get away with the free version.
Yeah, so that's a great start. That's brilliant. What's number 2?
Well, number 2 is a tool called Nimble, which is a social relationship management tool. So this goes beyond Hootsuite, where if you've identified a lot of key people that are influential, for example, journalists might be really influential if they're writing about the area you have courses in, or just people generally influential in the area of your business, or it could be customers or potential customers. If these people are people you want to build relationships with, what Nimble does, it helps you track that relationship building. So, for example, if I say somebody is an important contact, Nimble will remind me every month, oh, you haven't contacted that person. And if I do interact with them through Nimble, I can interact with them, the people I've selected, over Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, Facebook, directly within Nimble. So Nimble starts recording all them interactions. So now I can see, oh, listen, John, I've contacted John a week ago. So, I keep on topping up that. So keep on building the relationships. And I don't forget about people. And also there is a deals element to it. So it can start recording opportunities as well and tracking them. But I find that a really good tool. And again, it's not mine, but there is a free version of Nimble. And you will get a lot of good functionality with the free version.
Right, brilliant. No, so definitely look at that. I mean, I'll have all the links to these in the show notes, so we haven't got to worry about that too much. And the show notes will be at jbdcolley.com/OLP010, because this is going to be episode number 10. So that's number 2, so that's Nimble. What's our third tool?
So the third one is called Post Planner, and it's specific to Facebook. So if your target audience is on Facebook and you're going to do a lot of interaction on Facebook, Post Planner is a really excellent tool. It does all the scheduling of content far more advanced than the basic scheduling within Facebook. But one of the key areas is a content discovery engine. One of the problems with Post Planner or with Facebook is trying to come up with new, fresh content all the time. Everybody struggles. Whereas this content discovery engine, I can put in something related to my course, and Post Planner will search the internet. It will come back with any content that people are sharing related to that. And then I can sort this content based on the most likes or the most shares. So I can see what's the most popular content related to my course at the moment. Then I can click a button and then quickly add that to my queue for scheduling out for content for later. So it just saves a lot of time. It's a very good tool for finding the content, very easy to share the content, very good for scheduling the content. I can even start targeting different groups for different content and at different times. So I can say, release this piece of content in Europe at lunchtime, European time, release the same bit of content to my American audience at lunchtime, their time. And this is all automated. So yeah, it's a really clever tool. Yeah. And again, there is a free and there's a paid version. So yeah, we like when there's a bit of free in there as well.
Well, I think certainly when people are starting off, and if they haven't got big budgets, then I think being able to, even if it's limited functionality, do a certain amount of work with a free version of a tool. And as I think you said in the pre-chat, that when somebody really gets into something and they like it, then they then decide whether or not it's worth paying for. And I think that's a good way to go. Okay, so that's Post Planner. That sounds very interesting. What's number 4?
So number 4 is InkyBee. So an unusual name. People might be saying, oh, how do I find these influential people? Well, InkyBee is a blog research tool. So you put into InkyBee the type of content you're looking for. Say, for example, I'm producing a course on fashion. I'll go into InkyBee and I'll search for fashion, and it'll retrieve the top performing blogs with the largest audiences related to the fashion terms. So then I can see a list of them, and I'll see their Twitter following, I'll see their website address, the amount of traffic they're generating, the average traffic, the number of Twitter followers they have. Then I go, okay, this is a high-profile site in my niche, so these could be people that could be interesting to connect with and build relationships with. Now, this is a paid tool, but there is a free version that you can do I think it's a 14-day trial.
Right.
And the thing about it is, if you were running a campaign around a specific area for your course, within that 14 days, you could easily, do a search on the tool, find a list, use that list, and see how you get on without paying any money. Now, the thing about it is, it's a freemium model, so that's a free part. If you get a lot of benefit and you end up getting a lot of sales, well, then, of course, you might go back in and pay for the paid version. But it's not necessary. You can prove that it's valuable first using the free trial period. Yeah. But that'll uncover a lot of different really useful sites worth connecting with for promoting your course.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really, really interesting idea. We'll definitely have to have a look at that. And that's InkyBee, which is INKY as in ink. And
Yeah, that's it.
B as
Yeah,
in honey.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah,
Okay, trying to work out a good way of describing that. So that's
yeah.
number 4 then. What are we going to do for number 5?
So number 5 is a really interesting tool for Twitter called Need Tagger. And when I want to promote a course, there's a lot of conversation on Twitter that could be related to my course. People are talking about buying the type of course I have. They're asking questions related to the content in my course. You know, it's just general conversation that could be relevant to your course. But it's hard to find that on Twitter. So you can go to search.twitter.com and search Twitter, but it's not a great search. Whereas Need Tagger, it's a natural language search engine that searches through Twitter to find good opportunities for you. So if I'm looking for opportunities for people that are going out to buy courses relevant to my content, Need Tagger will produce all that information on a filtered list of tweets, and then I can interact and then I can respond to people directly within Need Tagger. Now, what Need Tagger do is, it's really excellent tool. What Need Tagger does is, based on the search results, it gives you 20% of the search results for free.
Right.
And then if you want the rest, then you pay for it.
Okay.
But the thing is, with that 20%, if you take the 20% search results and you find 2 or 3 good opportunities and you end up selling 1 or 2 courses, well, then it makes sense to pay for it.
Yeah.
If you don't find any opportunities and you don't make any money, well, then it doesn't make sense to pay for it. So,
and is this payment on a time-based period, or is it based on the search?
it's actually a monthly based fee.
Oh, okay.
So I think it's $29.90. Yeah, you start off.
So you could then do, you can. So okay, just to understand this, you can do a number of searches and you get 20%. But if you then pay your monthly fee, you get 100% of every search you want to do, because you probably ask lots of different questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and the thing about it, like I say, is if you're not getting sales with the 20%, well, then you probably won't get sales with the 100%. So, do the trial, see what sales you can generate, and then it's going to be a very easy decision to upgrade if you know that you're making more money from the free version. You know.
No, absolutely. No, that's a really good one. I shall definitely be having a look at that for my own courses. The last one, then, number 6. What are you going to astound us with now?
Well, number 6 is
no pressure.
I think no pressure. Well, Google Analytics is not a sexy tool. You know, Google Analytics is something that people go, "Oh, I should be using. I'm not really using." It's just essential. If you have your website and you're driving traffic to your website, you really want to see what's happening in that traffic. And in Google Analytics, one of the most important things in Google Analytics is setting up goals. For example, if you said, well, I'm going to drive lots of traffic to my website and I'm going to try and get I'm going to get inquiries about my courses, and based on them inquiries, then I'm going to try and sell to people that inquired. Mm-hmm. Well, within the goals section, what you want to do is see, well, how many visitors came to my website, where did they come from, and what was my conversion rates for each? So you go, have people come from Facebook and converted, or Twitter and converted, or come from other websites? Then you know, like, am I spending time on Twitter? Is it actually useful for me or not? Is Facebook valuable? Are people converting when they come to the website?
And you can then do your own tests. So you can change. So one of the things that Udemy is very strong about is encouraging people to set up Google Analytics on their course pages. And they make it very easy for you to do that. So anybody who's got a course and haven't done that, I strongly recommend you go into the FAQ on Udemy and do that. But one of the things you do is you have a course description, and I guess you could trial changing your sort of A/B testing, in a sense, changing your descriptors and changing and seeing what helps your conversion and what doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is, within Google Analytics, there's the content optimizer, and that allows you to split test pages and see where you get the better conversion. And it's quite easy to set up a separate 2 pages. And Google might go 50% of the traffic goes to one page, 50% the other. And the difference in conversion can be huge. So you might be getting the traffic to your site, but people may not be converting. So
I'm not sure whether with Udemy, you can do this on your own website, but I'm not sure with Udemy whether that's possible. I'm not sure whether you can have 2 different versions of the course on Udemy. But not to worry. The point though is well taken. So focus on the goal setting part of Google Analytics if you do nothing else.
Absolutely, yeah. And then it's at least then. I think there's far too much data in Google Analytics, so it's frightening for people. There's just too much. Mm-hmm. Whereas you focus in on a couple of different goals for your website. That's really what you want to focus on. What's my conversion rates? And that's much more important than looking at all this. We talk about traffic too much. Traffic doesn't matter if it's the wrong traffic or it's not converting. It's the conversions that's really important.
Yeah, no, that's really powerful. So just to recap, we've got Hootsuite, Nimble, Post Planner, InkyBee, Need Tagger, and Google Analytics.
That's it. That's the 6.
And everybody will be able to find those at jbdcolley.com/OLP010, which is episode 10 of the Online Learning Podcast. Ian, that's been really fascinating, actually, and I'm definitely going to be following up some of these myself. Now, where can people learn more about you and RazorSocial? Because if they haven't found you already, they certainly are missing something, and they should go and dig you out.
Great. Well, thank you, John. Yes, on RazorSocial.com, you can go there and... I mean, I do have a tools guide which goes through a lot of these tools and shows you how to use them, so you can subscribe and get the tools guide. But a lot of the content, we try to deliver the content in a non-technical way. So if you want to understand more about social media tools and technology, it is a great resource.
Sounds like an absolute goldmine, actually.
Yeah.
So people can sign up for the site there. Where can they find you on social media if they want to follow your other pearls of wisdom?
Well, if you go on to Twitter at Ian Cleary, IANCLEARY,
right, they'll
find me, or just search for Ian Cleary on LinkedIn. Yeah, I'll appear pretty high up there on LinkedIn. So brilliant.
Well, I definitely encourage people to do that, and I'll put those links in the show notes so people can find them very, very easily. Ian, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. I appreciate we were supposed to speak a couple of days ago, and for reasons on my side that wasn't possible. So you've been very patient and indulgent with me. I think you've given us some great advice and some great things to go and explore here. I shall certainly be picking up, and there's 2 or 3 here which I certainly have never heard of. So I shall be delving in as soon as I get a bit of free time. Thank you ever so much for your time. It's been a huge pleasure to have you on the Online Learning Podcast, and hopefully we'll speak again soon.
Well, thank you very much for John. I really appreciate being on. It's a great show, and hopefully tools bring some value to your audience.
I'm absolutely sure they will. Talk to you soon. Thanks, Ian.
Okay, thanks, John.
Bye. So my thanks to Ian for all those great tools, which if you're doing any marketing of your online courses, I'm sure you'll find extremely helpful. And I strongly recommend you go over to RazorSocial, which is RazorSocial.com, and sign up to Ian's list. If nothing else, it is certainly the most entertaining email you'll get each week. But he also has some fantastic content and recommendations on it, which I think you would do very well to pick up and follow. As ever, you can find all the show notes at jbdcolley.com/OLP010 for episode 10. Let's turn our attention now to this week's free course recommendation. Let's take a look at this week's free course of the week. This week's free course recommendations maintaining the emphasis I've given in this episode for online course creators. And so there's an excellent course called How to Teach an Online Course, which has been created by Hugh Collingbourne. And I think this is an excellent starting point for anybody who's new to Udemy or to online course creation. He has taught over 4,000 students on the Udemy platform, and over 1,800 of them are taking this course. And he covers in the course all the sorts of things you're going to need to put your online course together. Cameras, microphones, lighting, backdrops, how to create a home studio, solving audio problems, video editing, screencasting, scripting, and presenting. So there's a lot here. It's just under an hour of content. There are 7 lectures. But if you're new to this, then I think you'll find it an excellent starting point. And of course, it is joyously free. So my thanks to Hugh for his course. course. It's called How to Teach an Online Course, and I'll have the links in the show notes. Well, that's it for this episode of the Online Learning Podcast, a slightly different take, but I hope you found it interesting. I like to mix it up and still bring you, I hope, very good value and interesting content. You can find the show notes at jbdcolley.com/OLP010. And if you have any comments, I'd love to hear from you. You can email me, john@jbdcolley.com. Thank you for spending time with me today, and I look forward very much to seeing you in the next episode. So that's it for another episode of the Online Learning Podcast. I really appreciate you being with me. If you enjoyed the show, I would really appreciate it if you would go over to iTunes and leave me a rating, preferably a 5-star rating if you think it's worth it, and a comment. And then if you email me, john@jbdcolley.com, that's Juliet Bravo Delta Colley.com, I will send you a free coupon code to my Udemy course, An Introduction to Startups, which has got 40 minutes of video teaching you all about startups. So thank you very much for spending time with me today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. This has been the Online Learning Podcast.